So of all the questions that I hear from nonprofit executives and leaders and people who are trying to make a change in their community is, where do we get the funding? How do we get the funding? Mazen, I know that there's all these foundations and these grants and people are doing grants all over the place, but where are the funding? I've written so many grants and I haven't gotten any grants. Where is the funding? And over the last 10 years of running a nonprofit here in California, I've actually learned a lot of things that a lot of the expensive grant writers and fundraisers don't always mention, right? There are some kind of untold secrets about how this whole thing works. And this secret game is something that we need to know and understand. And once you know and understand how to navigate it, it's going to make a huge difference. And I can say that from personal experience. For most of the history of my nonprofit, maybe the first 5-6 years, we basically ran on the Robin Hood model. So we would charge for services like consulting and workshops and all these different events for people who had money, usually other nonprofits and sometimes individuals or companies. And then we would use the extra money that we had left over to service the community that did not have the resources to pay for us. But the problem was that this often can lead to burnout because you have to basically run two things at once. And it was only in the last couple of years that we started to get these 6-figure grants that were just completely unlocking and transforming what was possible for our organization, because now we have funding that actually pays for the time to do the work, to even discover what the work wants to be. You're not always in that burnout cycle of hustling and grinding and trying to make things happen. So I want to share with you 4 facts. 4 sometimes inconvenient truths, but once you know them, you can navigate this world of fundraising in a way that's going to actually produce results and not waste your time. So the first one is this. It's about what is the leader's role, the executive director or the founding board member or whatever it is, but what is the leader, the person who holds the vision, or those few, 2, 3, or however many people that hold the vision, what is their role, right? Can we just hire a grant writer and they go write the grants and then I can focus on the work? And the truth is that 60 to 80% of fundraising in small to medium nonprofits, and this is meaning under 3 million, under 5 million, it's not like just small, I'm talking about what some people would call big. 60 to 80% of the fundraising is done by the executive director or a founding member of the board or the founding team. 60 to 80%, the lion's share, right? And this is nonprofit fundraising research done by UCLA Center for Philanthropy in 2016, but many others have corroborated it, that it's between 60 to 80%. And in a lot of organizations, it's more, right? It's even more of that than that. It's the bulk of that fundraising is going to be done by you, the leader. And so once you know that, that's going to first set up an understanding of this is going to be a part of the work. This is part of the job. This is what we need to do as leaders of our vision, is we have to learn how to become stewards of these funds. And don't worry, what I'm going to share with you is going to show you that it's actually not as complicated as it may seem. The second thing is about cold applications to grants, meaning you're applying, you're sending it in, and they don't know who you are, you don't know who they are, and you're just hoping, some people call it spray and pray. It's going to apply to like 100 grants, and at least one of them's got to go in. Well, if you apply to 100, you'll probably get 5 to 10. Because the cold application success rate is about 5 to 10%. And this is really sad because it basically means that 90 to 95% of the grant writing energy that is done by our beautiful nonprofit organizations around the world and the research institutions and all of them, 90 to 95% of that energy is producing nothing, right? It is, maybe you're getting more clear on your vision, you're learning about how to talk about it the first couple of times, that's great. But it's not really that efficient of a way to try and get your funds. So on the other hand, warm introductions meaning someone introduced you like, hey, I think you should talk to this program officer. That's a key word. This is the person in most foundations that makes the decisions about who gets funded, right? They don't maybe set the strategy of the foundation, but they're the ones who work with the individual organizations and nonprofits. And the success rate of warm introduction started fund grants is 20 to 30%. 20 to 30%. And if it's invited to apply, so they actually said, hey, we'd like you to fill out and we'd like to invite you to apply to this coming grant cycle, it's 50 to 60%. So as you can already see, and this is coming from the Grant Professionals Association study in 2021, right? As you can start to see, it's all about networking and relationships. It's all about getting to know the people who are making these decisions. And of course, that brings up the question is like, well, how the heck do I get to know them? I don't know anyone in the fundraising world. I didn't grow up with rich parents that are donating to these things and going to galas. And this is me personally. My parents immigrated from Africa, from Sudan. I don't know any of these people. I didn't have any of this network, right? I'll be honest with you. One of the funders, the first people that ever funded my organization, I met them when I was hiking in the forest on a retreat, and I was walking around with my instrument. And so to a certain degree, this might be a fifth point that I didn't mention. Actually, I might circle back to that about the kind of spiritual or side of this whole equation. But what I'm trying to say is there is a way to build this network. And that is, there's $25 to $50 billion in grant money every year that goes unawarded. So there's a lot of money out there that wants to be given out. And it is literally the job of these fund foundations, of these grant givers. It is their job to give away money. The way that it works is that those foundations hold a bunch of money, and that money is put into basically like a account that is bearing interest, right? So it's invested in different stocks and whatever kind of portfolio, and it makes a return of maybe 5% a year, 10% a year. And so that money, that 5 to 10% a year that they get back, that's what they give out. And nonprofits, foundations have to give out money, right? That's the expectation of the donors who are giving them money. So it is their job to give away money. And some of them, I've met them, are working super hard, long hours, trying to find enough people to give the money to. So it's kind of mind-boggling. There's so many of us that are trying to get funding and so many people trying to give funding. Where is the disconnect? And it's all about relations. So essentially, this untapped funding is untapped because there is a gap in communication, and a gap in relationships, and a gap of networks. And the reality too is that a lot of the times it's an awkward relationship because they're not the rich person themselves. Program officer, they don't own this money. They have a 9-to-5 job just like you and me, but they are in charge of building the relationships and selecting people to get them funded. They don't want to get people's hopes up. They don't want to disappoint people. So they're often very good-hearted and intentional people that are being very mindful about how they set those relationships up. The key is this. It's all about identifying who are the people, who are the foundations, the donor-advised funds, which are called DAFs, another kind of funder, or individually wealthy people who are funding the work that you do. And guess what? You can go on ChatGPT or whatever AI search tool and literally search, hey, this is what I do, and this is the kind of work that I do, and who in the field is doing this work, and who's funding it. Once you identify who that is, it's all about leveraging your network in order to get introductions, okay? And here's the thing that I found through the research that I've done in all the different organizations that I've worked with. Sonia Mehta, who's another one of our fundraising experts at Holistic Underground, Robin Sukadia, another fundraising expert, is that often when you work in the nonprofit field, you know a lot of people in your network, and 1 to 2 degrees away from you is the person that's funding the work that you do. Think about it. Your friend that works in the other nonprofit, they used to work in that other nonprofit before they worked at this one, or the job you had before. Someone there knows someone, maybe it's the executive director of that organization, that funds people, because that's who funded that nonprofit you're working in. All of the nonprofits you're part of, someone's funding them, right? And so these relationships are not actually that far away. They're right 1 or 2 degrees away from you. And you can even sometimes use your social media platforms to get access and find out who those people are. Once you can go to the website, sometimes you can see who those individuals are. And so now it's about who can I connect with that can get me a connection with that person. And then once you get that, maybe that person can give an intro, make that warm introduction we talked about. You need to have some materials. You need to have the materials that you can send to your friend, your colleague, whoever it is, and say, hey, I saw that you know so-and-so, or I realize you know so-and-so, and I've been trying to get in touch with someone at that organization for a very long time. Here's my work. Here's a 2-pager about what we do. Could you make an introduction? I would love to talk about how we could collaborate. And that person gets to read your 2-pager and be like, oh, seems legit. This is a pretty good 2-pager. Let me go reach out to my person that I know. Hey, Sally, Bob, Mohammed, Fatima, whatever your name is. I see that you're doing this work in this foundation. I know someone named this. Here's a 2-pager. I feel like you have a lot in common with what they're trying to accomplish. Can I make an introduction for you all to have a conversation? Boom. Now you got that warm introduction, and you got to prepare for that conversation and have it. And from there, it's follow up, follow up, follow up. You're following up with the friend that said they would make the introduction. You're following up with the person that you had the conversation with. You're following up, and following up to find out all of this different information. And from there, you can get those invitations to apply, which are going to produce the much higher likelihood of getting funded. So this is pretty much what we do. And I've worked with dozens and dozens of nonprofits that get a lot of millions of dollars of funding. This is what they're doing too. Even the ones that have all the money, they're like, hey, board member, who do you know that could fund us? Or hey, person who funded me last time. Who else that you know in your funder circles who funds this kind of work, and could you make an introduction? So it's all about relationships. And that's the good thing, because really the people who lead nonprofits and do this kind of work, that's actually often your superpower. It's building relationships. It's like, oh no, I have to do all the fundraising. Well, guess what? You're the person who holds the spirit of the work that you're doing. And actually that's the kind of circle back that I was talking about earlier. It's a journey of really trusting the divine, trusting God, trusting spirit, the universe, however you refer to the source of all of the resources that are available to us. When you can build that relationship of trust with God, that you can do it, that you can get the access to those resources that you can, and you're no longer feeling the scarcity mentality, that's one thing. Two is recognizing that you are a relationship building expert. That's what it means to be a nonprofit leader. You wouldn't have gotten this far. You would have had zero impact if you were not exceptionally good at building relationships, better than the average human being, right? So that is your strength. Your network is your net worth, as they say. And so this is your opportunity to actually call in all the favors you've been doing for the last 10, 20, 30 years, all the support. You are someone who's been giving and giving and giving into the community for so long. So it's all about building those relationships. Now, if you want to find out the really tangible steps, like there are tools, there are softwares, there are apps that you can use to find out who these individuals are, to actually see who in your network can connect you with those people, to leverage, to look at your email list and all these different things. You can talk to us. This is what we do with people, is we help them to get in contact with those folks, have those warm introductions and get those conversations going. And I would love to support you. That's basically what I wanted to share with you, is that it's really not rocket science. It's not brain surgery. It is very simple. It's building relationships and leveraging your network and having conversations and finding alignment and giving inspiration, because ultimately, right, what funders are doing, it's like marketing, right? Where sometimes you sell a product or a service in the for-profit world. In the nonprofit world, what you're selling is a vision. What you're selling is inspiration. What you're selling is the impact that you are trying to do, that the funder is trying to fund, right? And so all you're doing is learning how to sell that vision, how to enroll people in what you're trying to do so they feel inspired and they see that you're the person who's uniquely positioned to deliver that outcome and that result. So thank you so much for listening and tuning in. You can check out our website if you want to ask any questions or learn more. We actually have some resources that we've created that are available for free at holistikunderground.org. So go ahead and check us out and log in. You'll also find a link in the description. And we hope to see you in the next step of your journey. Peace.